All right, y'all, I am just working in the background to get things ready. I have started a new theme, so there may be some issues with the chat box and everything. And especially this is an old theme that was created before Streamlabs did updates to the chats. So I am going to try to deal with the chats, and then I will talk a little bit about what I've been doing here. It has nothing to do with this stream, so if you want to bypass all that, you can come back in about 5 minutes. Let me start the timer. So 5 minutes, give me 5 minutes. And then, like I said, after 5 minutes, we'll start the actual stream. In the meantime, I'm just doing some cleanup and getting things ready. All right. First things first, let me send myself a chat to try to make sure the chat box is running, because like I said, this is an old theme that was created before they updated the chat boxes, and I'm hoping it actually solves a problem that happened when they did update those chat boxes. They added extra features to the chat box, but they also added this extra like filter that's like a black color with a little bit of a design on it on the chat boxes, and I have a hard time getting rid of the filter so that it just shows the chats without that black background. I have to like go in there and adjust the filters or the blending or whatever in order to do it, and I don't remember that being a problem before their updates. So let's see if I can send a chat on here and it will actually show up and show up right. Okay, I'm gonna pause this on here. And I'm gonna turn my speaker on in case there's any chat messages. Start with a simple hello. And I got a chime. That means something came in. Okay, it is right over the top of my schedule, so let's move that. But it does not have that background, so that is good. That is what I was hoping for. No background. I can just move this on up. Boop, boop, boop. Okay. So I think that's okay. Okay, it is a little small. I mean, I am looking at it on a small screen, and if you're looking at it on a phone or anything, it's going to be even smaller. But if you're looking at it on a desktop, it could be significantly bigger. But let me see, is there anything else I can do? I think there may be an option to enlarge the font. Let me double check. Browser settings. It doesn't look like it has anything like that. I can adjust the width of the box itself, but I don't think that's going to enlarge the font really. All right, I guess it is what it is. Okay, let's one more message. My typing is horrible, slow, haphazard, very hunt and peck. So, sorry about that. Feel free. Oh my goodness. One of my commas is a period. Alright, let's fix that before I send it. Okay, I think it's correct now. I do try to check my stuff before I send it, usually, because it's too easy to have spelling and grammar mistakes. And even when I check it, sometimes I still have grammar mistakes. But anyway, that is on there. We only have 28 seconds. So anyway, what I've been doing around my house is I've been patching up the walls with joint compound and doing California patches, and like every single day I work on it either a little bit in the morning or a little bit in the evening. I get drywall and joint compound and stuff all over my hair. It's nasty, and then I end up having to clean up in whatever way I can. My hair has been like just dry and like straw, so I've had to go from taking little bird baths to actually adjusting by actually taking actual showers every freaking day right after I'm done. Anyway, let's go to the live scene. All right, so this is Venus Brown. I am here with an introduction to this book right here called Princesses Behaving Badly by Linda Rodriguez McRobbie. So I'm just introducing it today, so we're just gonna kind of go over the dust cover and the intro. Actually, I think I'll do the cover, then the intro, and then the rest of the dust cover. And then we'll talk about how I'm going to proceed after today. So, Princesses Behaving Badly, and it says, real stories from history without the fairy tale endings. Because I think one of the things that I dislike about all the Disney princess stories and stuff like that is the unrealisticness of it, the trying to make everything shiny and pretty when that is not the reality oftentimes, and only presenting one face to those stories when we know there's far more to it. All right, so and it says Linda Rodriguez McRobbie. So let's go ahead to the introduction. Got a few pages here. Do have an index. All right, here we go. Let's see if you can get a good glimpse of that. Once upon a time, an introduction. Every girl pretends she is a princess at one point. Lindy from Alex Finn's Beastly. Every little girl? Not quite. When I was growing up, I didn't want to be a princess. I wasn't a tomboy or anything. I just wasn't into them. Horses, yes. Especially the unicorn or winged, or best of all, winged unicorn kinds. But then again, when I was a little girl, the Disney princess wasn't the glittery, pastel-colored juggernaut it is today. You could be a little girl and not limit your dress-up choices to Belle, Ariel, or Cinderella, or Mulan, or Merida, if you're feeling feisty. Nowadays, princess obsession is the default setting for many little girls, which honestly, it was definitely the default setting when I was growing up. I don't know at what point Linda was growing up, but I'm not a young spring chicken. I've been here for quite a while, and it was definitely the default setting. Anyway, where was I? In 2000, Disney decided to market the doe-eyed denizens of its feature films by their primary identifying characteristics, their princess titles. And thus was born the Princess Plague. Princesses are now the biggest industry for the pre-tween set. In 2012, the Disney Princess Media franchise was the best-selling of its kind in North America, outselling Star Wars and Sesame Street and earning more than $4.6 billion worldwide. Add to that all the collateral stuff, the princess and the pop star Barbies, the Melissa and Doug decorate your own princess mirror sets, countless pink spangled princess t-shirts, And you've got what social commentators and worried parents are calling the princess industrial complex. And I'm going to reiterate again that this was definitely a thing when I was growing up. My grandma who died years ago, had a full set of Disney princess videos. It was definitely a thing. And most of the little girls I knew had a massive obsession with princesses, especially Disney princesses. So it's definitely not new. But like I said, I don't know at what point Linda was growing up. All right. In her fascinating book, Cinderella Ate My Daughter, Harper, 2011, Peggy Orenstein examines the obsession with bundling girls into pink and pretty princess costumes. Orenstein, among many others, worries that princess play presents unrealistic expectations of feminine beauty, is overly restrictive, pink ball gown or purple, and is turning little girls into budding narcissists. And honestly, this was definitely an issue growing up. Like, fucking obsession with princesses and making girls into these, trying to make girls into these replications of Disney princesses and these ideal images of beauty. And I think we had a particularly bad problem of any form of media that we had really focusing in on all those ideal ways to be a female, those ideal ways to be pretty and to be proper and to attract men and to get your mom off your back and whatever other issues that were going on. Like, it was really, really bad. I feel like it was worse then than it is now. But I understand that the amount of media and the access to media now has definitely enlarged dramatically. And the way that they have focused on some of this stuff is definitely a problem. But I feel like it was a major problem before. Our self-esteem when I was growing up for many girls was not good because we all had these images to look up to that were not realistic for most females. And most of the females I knew were striving to reach those unrealistic ideals. So anyway, problems existed then, still exist now. And I would imagine they existed for I would imagine that it was probably around the time that my grandmother, who I said has died a while ago, was growing up when she was a kid. Like early. Oh gosh. When was my grandma is a little bit, or my grandma was a little bit younger than my grandpa. My dad is a little bit older than my mom. Like, there always seems to be this staggering. I'm the exception. I married younger because I have a problem with males my age. I'm not going to lie. I have a problem with males, period, but that's another story. All right, let's see. Where was I? Oh, yeah, I didn't even finish this paragraph. So, okay, budding narcissist. So do I. Though no direct evidence supports claims that the ubiquitous princess culture harms girls' self-esteem. Are you sure? It seems to me that the phenomenon smacks of an unjustified sense of entitlement. A kind of fake power derived not from good decision-making skills or leadership or intelligence, but physical attractiveness, wealth, and relationships with strong male characters. Princess is a title that establishes bizarre expectations of how one should be treated, of what has value, and what women will or should achieve in their lives. Obviously, most little girls don't grow up believing that life is all dress-up heels, fairy godmothers, and Prince Charmings. But the princess fantasy is one that we don't ever really give up. Witness the fascination with Kate Middleton, the pretty girl next door commoner who married Britain's dashing Prince William in April 2011. Though she's technically not a princess, her official title is Duchess of Cambridge. Catherine's story has all the hallmarks of a fairy tale. The royal wedding even looked like a cartoon. I almost expected to see twittering bluebirds carrying Kate's train. Sweetly, two-dimensional Princess Kate was the image that tabloids the world over traded on, despite the grim reality of what happened in the last British princess to the last British princess given the fairy tale treatment. Blonde, blue-eyed Diana was Cinderella, a similarity not lost on media then or now. Diana's real story, however, her marriage of convenience, her husband's infidelity, rumors of her own unfaithfulness, struggles with fame and eating disorders, her courtship of the British press, and her eventual death after being chased by paparazzi is distinctly not the happy fairy tale everyone hoped for. And honestly, the stuff that was going on from the beginning when we saw that glorious, magical wedding that she went through was already like the stuff of fucking nightmares. We just weren't seeing it. We were seeing the pretty covering. We were seeing the image of idealness. We were not seeing the behind the scenes stuff of her not wanting to be married, her questioning the idea of being married to this person who didn't seem to give much of a shit about her, and her feeling isolated in this, I don't know if it was a castle, but isolated in the place that they had put her before the wedding, her trying to call it off, and then repeatedly throughout her marriage, trying to get the marriage dissolved and not being allowed to. Anyway, where did I go? Perhaps the best way to make sure that the fairy tale doesn't become the expectation is to talk about real princesses and to stop turning their lives into fairy tales. Some real princesses were women who found themselves in circumstances they couldn't control. Sophia Dorothy of Cell, I don't know if it's Cell or Chell or Cell, I don't know. It's Celle. For example, was forced to marry a man she called Pig Snout. A man who violently assaulted her, cheated on her, and after she retaliated by having her own affair, locked her in a castle for more than 3 decades until her death. So she stayed in a castle for 30 years until she fucking died. Others, like Anna of Saxony, were genuinely mentally unstable. A limited gene pool can be just as corrupting as absolute power. Pretty grim. But some princesses found ways to shape their own destinies. Empress Wu of China showed that princesses can be just as Machiavellian as any prince. Some, like Sarah Winnemucca, used their titles, both real and imagined, to draw attention to a higher cause. Others were just out for a good time, like the American Clara Ward, a so-called dollar princess, who left her prince not so charming to run off with a gypsy violinist. And more than a few weren't even princesses at all, like Caribou or Francisca. the Polish factory worker who claimed to be the lost Romanov Princess Anastasia. Historical princesses have been capable of great things, as well as horrible things. They've made stupid decisions and bad mistakes, loved the wrong people, or too many people, or not enough people. They are women who lied, murdered, used sex as a weapon, or dressed like a man to hold on to power. They weren't afraid to get a little dirt or blood on their hands. These women were human. But the word princess, along with its myriad connotations, often glosses over that humanity. For each of the women described in the following pages, I've tried to strip away the myth and portray something as close as possible to the real person. But history is only as accurate as those who record it. And that goes double when the subject is a woman. I've made every effort to track down stories from the most reliable sources. But, as with any reconstructing of the past, some of the tales must be chalked up to rumor, gossip, and assumption. You know what? I did not put this... Actually, no, I did. Okay, we're on the right page. I thought I had missed something, but we're on the right page. We're on the right scene, I should say. All right, so where am I? Did I finish that paragraph? I think I did. Yep. Okay, nevertheless, here are the stories of real princesses and real women. They may begin once upon a time, but they don't always end happily ever after. Okay, so that was the intro. Now we've got what is on the dust cover. So the inner portion right here. Okay. It says originally published in hardcover at $19.95. It doesn't say when it... Okay, I thought they were going to give a date. Let's look for the date. Published... copyright is 2013. Doesn't say original published, because I don't imagine that this is the original. I imagine this is a, an edition or 2 or 3 later, but I don't know. I could be wrong. Anyway, sorceresses, she-wolves, stalkers, saltunas. These are ladies you do not want to cross. For centuries, books, plays, and films have transformed flesh and blood princesses into stark symbols of beauty, kindness, and purity. But the true story, of course, is a lot more complicated, as it usually is. Rebels and rabble-rousers, floozies and fakes, manipulators and madwomen get the inside scoop on real-life royals whose stories had no fairy tale ending. Princesses behaving badly goes beyond today's princess mania, the billion-dollar industry that encourages vanity and vulnerability in little girls everywhere, to reveal would-be queens in all their glory and with all their faults and foibles. Some loved to party or courted controversy. Others grappled for power in a man's world or fought battles they could not win. From ancient Egypt to medieval Europe to modern-day America, history's princesses not only encountered far-away castles, swashbuckling princes, and wicked stepmothers, but also suffered for their titles and struggles to shape their own destiny. Discover the unruly rulers and spellbinding sovereigns who, for better or worse, forced the world to accept them on their own terms, including Alfhild? I I think that's what it says. Alfhild, the Viking princess, who chose privacy over passion and brought great riches to her lady Mateys, her lady Maides. Sometimes. Boudica, the fierce British redhead who led 120,000 warriors against the Roman occupiers. Okay, now we're going to go to the back of the dust cover. All right. Clara Ward, Detroit heiress who ditched her Belgian prince to marry a gypsy. Sarah Winnemucca, the Native American who played a princess to save her people. Wu Zetian, I don't know if that's right. The concubine who bumped off family and friends to become Chinese history's only female emperor. Caribou, the pathological attention seeker whose extravagant fantasy created a public sensation. Gloria von Thorn and Taxis, I think. Gloria von Thurn und Taxis, the socialite who partied with rock stars before saving the family from ruin. Gloria von Thurn und Taxis. Whatever. Anyway, they had bees in their bonnets, bats in their belfries, and skeletons in their royal closets. But whether we revere or revile them, we find them eternally enchanting. Linda Rodriguez McRobbie is an American journalist whose work has appeared in the Boston Herald, Christian Science Monitor, CNN Money, U.S. News and World Reports, TheAtlantic.com, Slate.com, Smithsonian.com, and Mental Floss, and on NPR. She lives in London with her husband, Chris McRobbie, a graphic designer, and their 2 sons. Jacket design is by Lisa Chovnik, and jacket art by D.A. Picture Library, Granger, New York City. Fine Communications, 322 8th Avenue, New York, 10001. All right, and now we have the last page for today, and then I will talk about how I'm going to proceed after this, because I know this is just an intro, and most people aren't interested in the intro. I'm interested in the intro, which is why every book that I've read so far online, I have started with the intro, because I find this stuff fascinating. I think it's interesting. I think it is a good way to kind of get a little glimpse of what you're going to start reading before you start reading it, without getting usually major spoilers. Let me get a drink of water here. That was good. All right. Fairy tales may begin once upon a time, but they don't always end happily ever after. If you ever thought being a princess is all tea parties and tiaras, think again. Author Linda Rodriguez McRobbie strips away the princess myth to reveal the fascinating facts about female monarchs, past and present. All the guts, glitter, and gore you never learn from Walt Disney or the Brothers Grimm. Princess Lakshmibai of India charged into battle with an infant on her back. Princess Isabella executed her husband's lovers and then her husband, the King of England. Princess Alexandra of Bavaria believed she had swallowed a glass piano. How does one do that? Or even believe it if it didn't happen? Anyway, Queen Jinga of Njongo in Africa kept a male harem and thwarted colonizers for decades. Meet these and dozens of other infamous, illustrious women, soldiers, schemers, survivors, saints, and spies, whose true stories are weirder and wilder than any little girl would dream of. All right. So, I am looking forward to reading this. I like books like this. I also like books like, I have these Christmas ones that go over like the original real tales of why Christmas is the way it is and some of the traditions that we've had that have been passed down or have been left by the wayside. Same with religious books. I really like to kind of dig into the reality of those things rather than the brushed up, polished looking images that are presented to us that are just not realistic. Anyway, so what I'm going to do, actually, let's switch this to my other page. This is my live scene page. It's not much different, but a little bit. And it has my chats down here. I feel like maybe I could cut off the top of the chats and like stretch it up a little bit to make it bigger, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. I don't think it looks too bad. All right, but what I'm thinking of doing, this has, from what I can tell, 30 stories, 30 short stories about princesses, and they're all separated as to different types of stories. So you got your warriors, your usurpers, schemers, survivors, partiers, floozies, and mad women. And at first I was thinking I'll just do like one short story each week, every Sunday. But I know that there are some of these stories that I've read that are a bit connected. So I'm thinking that I will try to assess it ahead of time. And if it looks like their stories connected, I'll read them together. So let's say there's 2 or 3 stories on that week, that Sunday, I will try to read all 2 or 3 of them. And then on weeks where there's only one and the other ones aren't connected, then I'll just read one story. I'm not going to try to read way ahead, though, in case there's something connected later on down the road. But if it's connected like one chapter right after another, then I'll try to read them together. So that way we're getting a more full story of that particular princess or whoever it is that weekend, that Sunday. I think that's all I got for you with this. I will go to my end screen. I know at the beginning of this, I was talking about the stuff that I've been working on around my house. I have patches on my walls that I needed to get done before I have the painters come because I had an ant problem and we got rid of the ants finally. That took forever. And there's also some soft spots in certain parts of my drywall where it had gotten wet, which is why most of my patches are in my bathroom and my kitchen. But I've been trying to patch all that stuff up. I have been trying to get it all like looking nice and ready for the painters to come in. But it's been a long, gradual process. And every day I come in, I get done. I'll either do the work in the morning or the evening, and I'll have freaking spackling and drywall, joint compound, whatever, like all over. And especially on my hair. My hair has been very dried out, like straw a lot lately. I've been trying to do little, like, I don't like to get a shower too often because it dries out my skin and hair. But I don't like to wait too long either. The problem is that I felt like I need to clean up. So I would try to do these little bird baths in between. But that wasn't enough. My hair still felt like straw. So now I'm just like, okay, I just have to deal with it. And I've gotten in the practice of as soon as I'm done with whatever I'm working on and cleaned everything up, I go ahead, get in the shower and clean up my hair, condition my hair. I've been using, I have like a little teeny bit of hair repair mask left. So instead of using my regular conditioner and wasting it, I've been trying to use that because it's at the bottom of the container and I want to use it up. And my hair is definitely a lot more soft now. It feels a lot better, but yeah, we've been working on that. And honestly, like I should have had this stuff done a long time ago because the plan is to get the house painted, get the floors redone, and then put the house on the market. It's been that plan for well over a year, and we're just now getting around to where I feel like I can call the painters, get them to come out and come out here. I still have like a little teeny bit of work because I have one area over by the shower that's like a little itty bitty hole that I had to patch up, but it's in this really tight corner where it's really hard to reach. And I was afraid to put drywall back there, like to put a little teeny patch of drywall in there because I was afraid it would stick out too much. So I've just been trying to like fill it up a little bit at a time with joint compound. And it's finally to where it's almost even. So annoying. But once that is done, and it is almost done, I will be able to call the painters, have them come out here. I've been looking at flooring so I can make a decision about flooring. And I even made myself a spreadsheet with all the different brands of flooring and all the different specs, the costs, all of that, so that me and my husband can go look through them. I also plan on collecting images of what they look like and putting them on the spreadsheet so that we can see what each one is supposed to look like and make an official decision as to what floor option we're going to get. We're going to do the kitchen and bathroom differently than we are the rest of the house. The rest of the house is going to be LVP that looks like kind of like wood with grays and tans in it. But the kitchen and the bathroom, I want it to have a different appearance, and I definitely want it to have more grip so that there's less chance of people slipping on it. And my bathroom doesn't seem to be as level as the rest of the concrete foundation. So I am thinking that I may possibly, instead of doing LVP or LVT in the bathroom, I may want to do like a peel and stick instead, because LVP needs a very flat level surface, and I am not so sure that the floor over next to the shower is actually that level. And I am afraid of taking an angle grinder in there and trying to grind it down appropriately. And if I tried to like level the whole thing out by using leveling compound, it would take a lot because the problem that we have is that the area in front of the shower is raised up a little bit. At least that's what it looks like to me, compared to the rest of the concrete foundation. So that's what I'm looking at. I know that has nothing to do with this book, but sometimes I like to go on a little bit about what's going on in my life. Okay, and let's take a look at the schedule. We have every Sunday I'm going to be doing these live book reads. Like I said, I'm going to try to do one story or the stories about a particular princess each Sunday. There's no guarantee it will be at this time, but I do kind of like doing my live streams around 2 p.m. Eastern time, so it may be usually around 2 p.m. Eastern time every Sunday. On Wednesdays, I will be either doing a live stream or loading up content for Heartstopper, because Heartstopper Forever, the movie, finally came out. That is the last Heartstopper that they're doing, and I'm not ready for it to end. And some of the stuff I want to do is going to be by live stream, but some of the stuff I want to do is going to just be kind of quick video content, at least quick for me. hopefully it won't be more than like a half hour. Some of it might be much quicker than that because the next ones that I'm going to be doing are going to be on the couples in the movie, and most of the story in the movie of the side couples was not very involved. It did not involve a lot. So I may pull a little bit in from the books and from previous seasons, but I'm going to try to focus mostly on the current film. And if I learn about some of the book content that has to directly deal with the film, I may address that a little bit. But yeah, it may be fairly short content. Anyway, that's going to be Wednesdays. Every Wednesday I'll do a Heartstopper video until I get done, until I am either tired of doing it or until Three Body Problem comes out and I can start working on that. Which also, I realized I have a digital copy of all the Three Body Problem books. I had gotten it for my dad. When I ordered it, I thought it was going to be hard copy books, but it was not. It was the digital version. So they basically send me a link to the books, which you can download. So I downloaded them, and then I sent my dad a link along with download files so that he could access them. Unfortunately, my father has passed away, so he's no longer able to read this stuff, obviously, and I highly doubt that anybody else in my family is going to read it, but I still have those original files on my devices. So either before or after Da Vinci, so either before or after Three Body Problem Season 2 starts, I will probably start reading from those digital copies, but I will start with the first book. There are 3 books, plus there is a, what do you call it? It's like an extension, but it was not written by the same person. So there's a 4th book that is written by a different person, but is an extension off the story to create like a little bit of an extended ending or a better ending. So I believe I have that book as well. So I will at least start with the first book when Three Body Problem starts. At least. I may start with it before Three Body Problem starts, but it takes me a while to read these things, so I highly doubt that I will get anywhere close to finishing the first book before Three Body Problem Season 2 ends. So there's no way I'm going to be caught up or anything like that. And I am thinking what I'll do is read the first book, and once I get done with that first book, I will stop and I will read something else. And then we can go back to the second book when we get a little bit closer to the 3rd season. As far as I know, they're only doing three seasons. They are trying to smash a lot of sci-fi information into 3 seasons from 3 extremely thick, science-heavy sci-fi books, which I think is a stupid idea. I think a lot of us think is a stupid idea, but that's what they're going to try to do because the company that agreed, I think it's Netflix again, the company that is airing the show only agreed to the 3 seasons, and they are making each season shorter. So they're taking 1 episode off each season, I think, something like that, which is really stupid. This is a lot of information to cover, and I know they have a lot of stuff that will go over people's heads, and they probably just want to toss out, but you still have to do it in a common sense way that people are going to enjoy, that people will like, so that they actually will get something out of it, so that they will actually enjoy it, and so that they don't feel like they're being completely gypped with removing half the freaking story. And that's what I feel like they're going to have to do by having these really short seasons and only having 3 seasons. These books could have easily been stretched into far more than 3 seasons. And instead of giving them more seasons, they're giving them only 3, and they're shortening the seasons, which to me is just dumb. But anyway, that's the book reading stuff, at least for now. That's my plans for now. I'm going to read this Princesses Behaving Badly until I'm done. And then whenever 3 Body Problem comes around, I will either start reading 3 Body Problem, the first story, or I will start it a little bit ahead of time. I highly doubt that I will have Princesses Behaving Badly done before 3 Body Problem comes out. So most likely what I'll do is just set the live streams up at separate times, either the same day or separate days. But that's kind of the plan for the live stream reads for now. Fridays, I will be loading Tokyo Ghoul Re. We are coming to the end. I know I've been saying we're coming to the end of this series for a while, but we are. We're on, I think, episode 9 now, and there's 12 episodes. So we only have a few left, and then we're going to be going to Demon Slayer. And I have been working on getting stuff ready for Demon Slayer, so that should be prepared. Once Tokyo Ghoul Re is done, I should be ready to go straight over to Demon Slayer the very next week. And if you haven't been all that into the Tokyo Ghoul Re reactions or whatever, I mean, honestly, I feel like the ones that I have been putting out recently are actually kind of crazy. They're kind of good. There is at least one episode towards the end that I found myself kind of my eyes glazing over and just like not really reacting a lot, because it was just a whole bunch of battle scenes, one after another, and I've said before on other live streams that like I am not good with that stuff. I tend to get bored with it very easily, and then my eyes will glaze over and I'll just be like, why am I still watching this? What am I really getting out of it? So I do feel like, I think it was episode 11 that did that. Episode 12, though, was really good. I enjoyed episode 12, but episode 11 was like, what am I really watching here? Why am I watching it? At least I think that's how it was. But episode 9 I thought was good. Episode 10 I think was very good. So just keep it in mind. Might be worth taking a peek at. And then we'll start on Demon Slayer. And my kid, because I have my kid watch animes with me when I do the reactions for animes. And that's the only ones that my kid will do with me. Except for Heartstopper. Heartstopper they did with me also. But they said they do not have any intention to be involved with any of the content that I'm going to be doing after this for Heartstopper. So they won't be on that. But the animes, my kids said that they actually have not watched Demon Slayer. So they said they might actually have more input than they've had on these other shows, because all the other shows that we've watched so far, they have already watched the seasons. It may have been a long time ago, but they've already watched the seasons. So they don't always have a whole heck of a lot to say. And frankly, they're a kind of timid person, so they don't tend to have a lot to say anyway. So we'll see. But anyway, I think that's all I got. I think that's everything for now. So that's it. I will see you when I see you. Bye.